team-wise, they just want PvP, bro. Make it so that PvP gives you lower EXP than the objective. That would be my take, right? Then you can go on this little killing spree all you want, but if you're not playing the base game, the objective, you're not going to get anywhere, right? Make it to where objectives matter. That's the whole point of it. Because if it's 5v5, right? And you have 4 of your team.
We are here to talk about Conquest in detail, finally. Oh my god. Talk about all the issues, everything in terms of how good it is, and get your guys' input because Archmage wants to de-emphasize Conquest, right? So that's what we're finally here to do. So,
alright, Archmage. Did you say Arch or Arch? Hold on. Now I know for sure.
De-emphasize Conquest. And get your guys' input because Archmage wants to...
Archmage. Okay. Hey, Archmage. Nice to meet you. Give me a private server, please. I'm glad that he wants to de-emphasize Conquest because Conquest has been the only thing I will see in YouTube comments, whether it's the Real Punchies videos, Skipper Grippers videos, some like smaller Deepwoken YouTubers videos. Conquest is pretty much always there. People will say, oh, we got this before Conquest, we got that before Conquest. I had no idea what Conquest was up until a little deeper on down because I didn't know what people were talking about. I didn't know what they were referencing to. I didn't know that there was supposed to be something put into the game. Personal opinion, I hate this, right? Conquest, from what I've gathered from everybody, was supposed to be out like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I've heard people say they've been waiting for it for like a year and a half to 2 years. I think it's cool that they're touching more on the player versus player side, okay? Because Conquest, you are fighting other players. And it's not like your standard PvP, you have objectives, you have stuff you have to do in order to win the game. I think it's cool that through all this time, the devs have been putting more time into player versus player content, right? I don't do player versus player content in like Deepwoken. I'm not making Chime builds. I've seen Chime videos, they look abysmal. They don't look fun. I haven't touched any of the Battle Royale. That's something that I actually would kind of want to see, but I've seen little videos of it, and it kind of feels like if you don't have people playing with you, it's kind of a bust, right? I don't do the war servers because I don't have PvP builds, and even if I did have PvP builds, so many people incorporate and create and copy all of these different ways of experiencing the game that it can make doing certain things just not fun anymore. If you have been playing Deepwoken, if you've been keeping up with Deepwoken, even if you haven't, I'll brush past it. Bird builds were a really big thing. People were going Star Kindred, the Oath where you get angel wings or just wings in general. They were mixing it with different travel mantras, and they were essentially able to stay in the air forever. The devs ended up taking care of the bird build by pushing things down to make it less what it was, right? Silent Heart used to be a PvE oath. I saw a lot of people running it in PvE. It was like the main thing people would run for stuff like the Diluvian. Some ways along the way, it stopped being PvE and catered more towards PvP. Doesn't mean you couldn't use it for PvE. It just meant, as far as the general public used it for, chances are it was a no-go. Shouts out to no-go. Other than that, there were a handful of things that the devs were releasing that felt really PvP centered. And don't get me wrong, I think it's cool having that little bit of competition can be really exciting. But at the same time, I love PvE. I haven't had my feel of PvE yet, right? If you've seen my other videos, whether it's on this channel or my gaming channel, I've talked about it, where I want to be able to run the Diluvian solo to wave 50. I haven't done that yet. I haven't killed all the bosses in Deepwoken yet. I haven't taken on the Heart of Enmity. I haven't done any of that content yet. I've touched a little bit of the world events, but was nowhere near stacked in combating it. I'm just now learning how to get my hands on stable gear that somewhat has okay DVM. Right? Even then, it's not even concrete for me yet. right? I know some of the best ways to get what it is you want is hell modes and diluvians.
I think in 2023, I think they were distracted by the weeklies a lot, and I think most of the devs are also busy on other projects. And so, really, Conquest didn't really start its like serious development until later in the.
Something else I want to add is I think Agamatsu has somebody else editing this video. I don't keep up with Agamatsu. I'm gonna be honest with you. I see some of the videos that he posts. Occasionally, some of the stuff kind of feels like clickbait to me, and I understand that he's doing, like, I've seen Dan do it too. They talk about things that they want changed in the game. They talk about things that could be cool in the game. Sometimes I agree with what each of them has to say. Sometimes I don't, but I don't always just straight up keep up with their content because, like, Dan posted a video the other day. The devs team finally hired me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're saved, right? He talks about all these things that sound like good ideas. I think that they would be pretty cool to finally put it on a team. Turns out, spoiler alert, Dan was not hired. There were just certain ideas that they agreed with, ran with, and that was about it. Agamatsu posts stuff where you would think that because he has such a pretty decent pull in everything, a lot of Deep Woken would be better, like, for what he has to add to it, because he has some pretty solid ideas too, but it just doesn't come into fruition, and Agamatsu, like, will let us know that. So does Dan. I did not know this till recently. Skipper Gripper brought it up, but the real Punchy is actually kind of in that space where the devs are. Agamatsu's closer than Dan and Skipper are, but the real Punchy, I believe, is like not a direct connect to Archmage, but pretty high up there. I had no idea about that, by the way. I always thought the real Punchy was like just this guy who enjoyed making videos about all the patches and stuff, but like looking on it now, yeah, it would make more sense as to him having a lot more of the direct connections, and he also has some pretty crazy cool ideas for Deep Woken. So does Skipper Gripper, in my opinion. All of these content creators do have pretty decent things that I think would fix the game, quote unquote, fix the game and make the game a little bit more entertaining for everybody as a whole. Unfortunately, these people don't always have a say in what gets
right, but unfortunately,
ads suck. You sure are right. So we got rid of them by giving you another ad. No. Okay, we are back.
we were doing like kind of weekly tests, or usually a tester would like ping the entire active testers, right? And we would be like, hey guys, let's get a conquest test session going, right? And so we would get it started. What usually happened, we would play through, and I'd say like 70 or 80% of the time, we usually have this like big ass list of things that can make it better, right? And so now I'm actually gonna break down, I guess, let me take a look and see if I can find basically what was shown on Twitter. I don't think I'll actually be able to hop in Conquest, maybe, who knows. So they already explained kind of like the very brief like explanation of how it works, right? You choose your talents to pick first out of many talents you bring into Conquest, may shape the course of the game. In comp Conquest, you bring your builds into the main game and progress.
Okay, notice he said in comp conquest and conquest. Comp conquest would be competitive conquest. Conquest would be conquest. So he's letting us know there are going to be two different game modes: competitive and non-competitive, ranked and ranked and non-ranked of conquest.
You'll earn your talents and mantras back over the course of the match, right? So what ends up happening? What is the gameplay of Conquest, right? Well,
do you need a free, easy way to capture your gameplay?
Is that dislike?
Introducing Outplayed. Record anything.
Let's explain it. There is basically like you have like your home base. I forgot what the word is, but you have like your
Nexus.
home base.
Yeah.
They have their home base,
Nexus.
and there are like 3 lanes that you can push towards, right?
It's your standard MOBA, but my gosh, C4, C5, C6, N4, N5, N6.
Base.
Okay, I think this is pretty cool. Okay, so north, center, and south. That's what the NC and S stand for. I think it's cool. I'm assuming this little GUI, this GUI that looks like it's in the top right-hand side of your corner, is actually what you'll be able to use to see what towers are up, which I think is actually really nice. It seems we've got a bar in the middle that shows your level. What is this? Quality. Bar in the middle that shows your level. shows, I guess, the amount of time that's elapsed in a match. And I'm assuming this red bar versus this blue bar is whoever's winning as far as it goes. Right now, everything's kind of even. If not, then these little circles at the end of these bars could be something that's coming that we all have to like fight to get together to protect potentially. But chances are that that might not be the case.
That's right. And then destroy it, right? And so that was the entire feedback loop. Now, there was supposed to be some jungle thing.
For those that don't know,
We've been hearing that there was supposed to be a jungle for like 7-8 months. I ain't gonna lie. So
It's taking 7 to 8 months to do the jungle alone. I don't know what they would be expecting to be put in the jungle. And I don't even know exact. I mean, I could see how a conquest could work in Deep Woken. Don't get me wrong, right? You got 3 standard lanes. He explains how everything. I don't know if maybe they were trying to, put in new mobs, or if they were trying to figure out which mobs they could put in. If they were trying to figure out how they could make mobs stay within the jungles, or how they could make mobs weak enough so that the EXP gain and whatever works alongside the jungle actually functions. But 7 to 8 months for just that concept alone is outrageous. But then again, the community's been waiting nearly 2 years, I think is what everybody's been saying, for conquest alone. And yeah.
So, don't know how that's going to play into it, but that's what we were testing. That was like the very base of the game, right? At 1/20th of what they are.
So I'm curious about this. This is something that I was curious about. Do we get to choose what attunements we have from the jump, and we have like a starter mantra for it? Or is this the type of situation where, like, as we level up, it lets us pick an attunement and a mantra? And are we going to be able to use builds with specific weapons? Like, will we eventually have like a legendary like item build? And because we're gonna have minions, I'm assuming minions are gonna be more so PvE based. How strong are the minions gonna be? In some of these games, minions can kill you early game, right? If you're not playing correctly, you can die to said minions. In other games, minions kind of feel not as like chaotic, not as heavy. So I'm curious about how the minion play is going to go, and if the minion count is going to count towards PvE. Another in general thing that I've been wondering, or just overall kind of thinking about, is is Conquest going to be set up to where PvE and PvP don't exist? Damage is just damage. Is this going to be a rollout so that if this actually does work calmly, they'll be able to patch it out to the main game, and that way we don't have to worry about PvE and PvP stats and armor? Or is this solely for Conquest, right? Is PvE and PvP still going to be relevant in Conquest? I would assume, because for those of you who don't know, in certain games, mages don't do enough damage to structures. So towers and a nexus, mages, their attacks and whatnot don't work. They can only auto attack. In other games, mages' powers work on towers and structures. So in certain games, only the raw M1 damage matters. In other games, other stuff matters. In other games, you can buff towers by giving them the same kind of buffs you can give teammates. Is all of this going to be taken into account in this? Where do the lines stop? Where are they drawn? I figured we'll probably see it in the patch notes, and when it does actually release, we'll probably see it in upcoming notes and patches and whatnot. But I am genuinely curious about this.
I think, right? At 120 what they are. So you'll build back your stats. You'll pick your mantras, the ones you want to be. Oh my goodness. Initially, right, there was no friendly fire. This was like really.
That sounds outrageous. No friendly fire, meaning that I guess you can hit your own teammates with your own skills and attacks. That does not sound fun at all. That sounds very toxic. When you're playing in a MOBA space, your team is supposed to be what helps you reach whatever, right? If somebody decides that they want to throw or leave your game or whatever the case may be, they could essentially hurt you by targeting you and making it so that you always die, you never progress, and the team wins the match. I don't know whose bright idea it was to not have friendly fire in the game, but kick them off.
Love games, but hate the
Yeah.
grind?
No.
With Wiimod, you can be invincible.
I'm paying for this. I shouldn't have to
unimaginably
get
wealthy.
ads for this. Conquest usually, yes, will have PvP elements, but objective based means you're doing a lot more PvE work, and usually you're taking your time bursting through whatever, right? From what I've heard about these testers and some of the devs and whatnot, it doesn't really seem like those are those kinds of players. They want things to be fast paced. They want things to be player versus player. They don't want to have to put up with all this whatever. They probably would have been better off having team death matches like Chime and expanding on that than taking their time to put a conquest in. But assuming that this was Archmage's idea, they probably have no choice but to, at the very least, try to help build on his dream.
So that's what's really been going on in like 5 minutes, right?
Now that's crazy. He said the game would be over in 5 minutes. How tanky are these towers to where in 5 minutes one guy can end the game? That is crazy. You need to slow down the pace or something. Yeah, it's going to be grueling. That's how MOBAs are, right? To get this game in and out just like that is ridiculous. If it's that easy to get to the Nexus, you need to put some stronger defense on the towers in front of it, or implement some stronger mobs, or lower it so the EXP gain rate and your overall damage numbers are just significantly lower, so that you have to be like either working with a team as low levels to get to that point, or you have to be just one pretty maxed out level to get to that point. 5 minutes is insane. Could you imagine a competitive league match ending in 5 minutes? A competitive smite, no forfeit, no surrender. Somebody destroys the Nexus in 5 minutes. Team-wise, they just want PvP, bro. Make it so that PvP gives you lower EXP than the objective. That would be my take, right? Then you can go on this little killing spree all you want, but if you're not playing the base game, the objective, you're not going to get anywhere, right? Make it to where objectives matter. That's the whole point of it. Because if it's 5v5, right? And you have 4 of your teammates fighting the other 5 of their teammates, their team. Nobody's in a call, nobody's on communication, nobody's on comms, whatever the case may be. You could solo push top lane, you could solo push bottom lane, and then end the game that way, right? Because chances are, if all they're doing, the way that these other games usually are set up are, if multiple people are in a lane, the EXP gain is dropped significantly. The higher the amount of people, the worse the EXP you get. Certain lanes, like one lane is supposed to have 2 people in it, right? The other 2 lanes are supposed to have 1 person in it, and then one section is the jungle. But they don't have a jungle here, which means you have to lower the EXP gain even more to make up for this extra body just moving around, right? It's crazy if you're having a 5v5, right? Let's say out of this 20 to 30 minute time, let's say instead of each person picking whoever off back to back, it's like let's say one team just sweeps the other team. Now you got 5 people pushing the turret straight to the Nexus, and I don't know what the respawn time is. I don't know if it's based on the amount of time in the game that has like played, or if it's based on how many times you died. Like, bro, forget letting the testers test it. Make this a beta game mode for the public to experience. Let us tell you how we feel as a whole. Put a poll up. Let us vote for these polls. Like, oh my gosh, this so far just does not sound good. But I don't know. I haven't played. It could be fun.
I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed them. I like fighting, bro. I enjoyed the fight, right? I enjoyed, like, you know what I'm saying? I like how it was a little bit different, right? And so that's, you know what I'm saying? I honestly think at this point, it'd probably just be better for them to release it. But in all honesty, unless I'm missing everything,
And to be honest, I mean, I agree with him in this case. You might as well just release it. Why keep trying to work on it? It seems like the idea is already shattered. It probably isn't what Archmage wanted to begin with, but if he can just get it out and get it out of his way, he can say it's done and work towards something better for the game, right? Not only that, but if it's out and it's terrible, in a few months, it could probably get worked on and become something better. I don't know if you remember, like, the Ceramide Hollow, the dungeon for the Miner's Landing origin. I didn't watch the full video, but agamatsu had talked a little bit about it being reworked. I guess the drops are going to be changing, the mobs are going to be changing, the map's going to be changing. That game mode's been out, or that dungeon's been out for what, probably like 5-6 months now? Maybe. Maybe. With that being said, you know, after all this time, it's finally getting some touch-ups, some work. Yeah, do the same with Conquest. Just give it some time, let it get touched up. If nobody touches it, that lets you know. I've heard some people say, like, Chain Warden, and there's a lot of stuff that just needed fixes. I won't even get into that in this video.
That's the bulk of Conquest. I'm serious. Like that's the bulk of the game mode. Now keep in mind, like I said, the jungle and the other shits didn't get added in. That's why I always said it was 80 or 90% finished, right? Because that's the bulk of it, bro. Like you're fighting, all right, you're trying to get through and destroy the towers and destroy the other person's nexus, right? Not too much crazy stuff in between.
I don't know. It sounds like Agamatsu's never played a MOBA. Regardless of that, though. Regardless of that. Overall, I feel like the first few games are going to be pretty fun in the state that it's in based off of what he said. But I feel like once you get deeper in and things really start changing, that's when it's going to lose its hype. That's when people are going to lose interest, you know? Because if these towers aren't doing high enough damage when you're a lower level, or if you don't have a certain amount of talents, or if you're not X amount of time into the game, they're just flooring these games. These games are ending in what'll probably feel like seconds. And if you want that fast-paced whatever, by all means, go for it. There's nothing wrong with it. But I don't know, man. This just feels like something that shouldn't have been here. There's a lot of other things in a base game that need to be fixed before this came out. And it's like, this should have just been thrown out the moment they talked about it being put out, and they just fixed up over time while we got the main game content kind of stuff. But I'm not a part of the dev team, and this would have been fire. This is about the time where I stopped. This would have been so cool, because these mobs and the minions and everything that was being exposed to Conquest could have been ported over to the base game, right? Maybe we have the owls and whatnot, and then this is a remade version of the owls ported over to the base game after it was tested in Conquest. Maybe this would be the new texture for owls, or maybe how we went from threshers to king threshers, small jellyfish to the huge gigameds. Maybe this would be that version of the owl, and if you kill this version, if you manage to kill this version, you get insert X amount of drops here, but the chances of them spawning are really rare. That would be super cool. This thing above it, I wouldn't even know what to begin. And this definitely looks like something that you'd see in the depths. It's got the gills, the fins, but it's got that lava like it's supposed to be in a Ceramide Hollow dungeon. This would be crazy. This thing looks like it's the Sharko's worst enemy. This thing looks like it and a Sharko cannot coexist in the same place. If the Sharko spawned in, how the Sharko fights those Stone Knights, this thing looks like it's going to pull up on a Sharko and just start throwing hands. That would be crazy, man. And we're missing out because you guys don't want to put a jungle in a game? Bruh! Oh my gosh. Hey, this video still has like 20-something more minutes left in it. Oh my god. This recording's ran on long enough. I have to stop and go do some stuff. So I'm going to cut this up, upload this to wherever, upload another part, whatever, in response to it.